Hello, this is Jeff again. Setting aside for the moment the important discussion of the science of young Earth creationism, for example, the geology of billions of dead things buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the Earth, or the circular nature of the assumptions involving radiometric dating processes, or even DNA and the many other impossibilities of the evolution claim. It's useful, I think, to actually go where the opponents of creationism are absolutely terrified that we would go. This is the place that they argue that we can never go, and of course the reason for their whole objection to creationism. And that's the metaphysical implications of the idea of creationism. It's something our founding fathers, be they a variety of different faiths and some of arguably no faith, agreed on. They said that all men were created equal. They were endowed by their Creator. They put a capital C on that, with the inalienable rights that we enjoy and that we will fight for. Even such noted atheists as Thomas Paine bought off on that. That was a sort of an Enlightenment rationalism type of thinking. But the important thing today about the implications of that is really this, I think, and that is that if we are in fact evolved, if we crawled out of the primordial ooze on the strength of our forelimbs billions of years ago or millions of years ago, and the survival of the fittest is the rule, then ethics as we know are completely obsolescent. There's no reason to treat anyone with kindness unless you can get a direct benefit from it. In fact, it's all about killing the other guy, taking what he has. And people like Eric Klebold or Eric Diebold, whoever these kids were on the Columbine massacre, what they were doing was very rational from the standpoint of a purely evolutionist sort of a mindset. In fact, one of them was wearing a t-shirt which said on it, natural selection. So the idea of ethics as we understand it is not compatible really with evolutionary teaching. And people who suggest that's an attack on Darwin or an attack on the people who propose evolution haven't thought it through, I think, logically. The bottom line is that if we evolve, then some of us necessarily must have evolved further than others. Therefore, some are less well evolved, and racism also makes perfect sense. The idea that you should do unto others as you would have them do unto you, as Christ taught, is absolutely out of step with any concept of evolution. Hopefully that's obvious. Many so-called Christians mislead themselves in saying and thinking that they have to rationalize the Bible to man's fallible evolutionary thinking and questionable science. This is a huge mistake. The Bible makes very clear that there was no death before sin. And so if we believe that Adam and Eve were standing on millions of dead things and plenty of excellent examples of disease and suffering and death in the fossil record, then everything could not have been good as God says it was when He created them. But if you read the Bible very plainly and very directly, I think you'll see that where it says in the evening and the morning were the first day, the evening and the morning were the second day, etc., it's not unclear about how long those time periods were or in what sequence these things happen. All plants were created, for example, on a separate day from the sun, moon, and stars. If those days are ages, then how did those plants survive without the sun to keep them alive, for whatever that age was? Also, the way the grammatical structure of the first three verses of Genesis is put together, it's not really possible to suggest that there's a giant gap between verse 1 and verse 2. The narrative simply says that in 6 days God made everything that there is, and on the seventh day He rested. That's very consistent with all the evidence that we see, as I'll discuss in a later video. But more importantly, that means that each person is created, and regardless of their ability or their so-called quality of life, they're all of equal value, and certainly as well loved by their Creator as any other. That's the fundamental underpinning logic of our political equality, as espoused by the founders in the Declaration of Independence. So throw out divine fiat creationism if you want to. You're also throwing out the basis for your human rights. I just want people to know that. People who argue strenuously against creationism, imagining that Christianity is coming to force something down their throats, are shadowboxing. No Christian will force you to believe anything. No real Christian. Because Christianity is the first great religion that offers choice. I'm not talking about Catholicism. I'm not talking about convert or die Christianity, which is no Christianity at all. I'm talking about the Christianity preached by a guy named Jesus and His followers, almost all of whom gave their lives in the first centuries of the church, not empowered by any political apparatus, but simply going about and teaching others to be kind to one another. That's what Christianity says. And that's That's one of the most compelling reasons to believe in creation by divine fiat. Evolution fails completely to explain the origin of time, space, matter, energy, and information. But the first 10 words of Scripture lay it out very clearly. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Succinct, comprehensive, correct.